Hey there, Adam here, looking today at a Basil Wolverton book. Basil Wolverton he's got to be in my top five cartoonists of all time. I, I'm not even sure when I first read him. It's been at least 10 or 15 years since I first read him, probably more than that. I don't know, but I think when I've read him, I've noticed though that his work tends to fall into a few different kind of camps or styles that he chooses to work with. And the two main styles that I've seen before this book were his kind of humorous style, which is just like Powerhouse Pepper is probably the best example of that. And it's just like really zany wordplay, ridiculous plots, and just pure cartooning at its best. And I love that art. Similar to the work they did for Mad Magazine, too. Very zany and over the top characters and people with really stretched out faces and stuff like that. So that's one of his styles. And then he has kind of a more serious style. I used to have this huge book called Space Hawk. I think that was the name. And I mean, the art is really great in that too, but the tone is much more serious, much more just like adventure and pulpy space opera, that type of stuff it was really popular in the 20s and 30s. So that's good, but I don't like the stories as much there, but the art's still very beautiful. And then this I think is the third major style that I've wanted to read this book for a while. I'd seen some of the art from it, and I'd heard about it, and it looked beautiful, but I just never got around to it. But now the time has come to check it out. And as you can see, it's going to have a lot of the hallmarks of Wolverton style, which is a lot of hatching and cross hatching, a lot of little dots that takes him probably many hours. So this is an example of his Powerhouse Pepper comics. They throw this in to kind of give you a contrast, because this is the work that I know him for, and I love this style of art. This is really beautiful too. But you can see there's not as much hatching and cross hatching, not as much. This is clearly a faster style that allows him to work at a more at a quicker pace. So anyways, this book is, I guess he was involved with a church. I forget the name of it. It's called like the Radio. I'll find the name of it in here somewhere, but it's like the Radio Gospel Church or something. And I guess I don't know, at some point he discovered this church while listening to the radio, and then he became a fan, and then they got in touch, and he started working for them. And he, over like a 25 year period or something, he did a lot of illustrations for them, for their like Bible magazine and things like that. Before we go on, though, I wanted to mention two other great, if you're interested in Bible comics, the two best ones that I've read, and I have not read all of them by any means, and I actually have several more that I'll get to eventually, I'm sure. But the ones that I've read up to this point in my life that I think are really good, one you got to mention is Robert Crumb's Book of Genesis, which is just a wonderful. I mean, I'm gonna see in this volume a lot of the art reminds me of that that style that Crumb uses in his book, which came out, I don't remember when, like 2000, late 2000s, 2000 is that what that's called, or like 2006, 2009, somewhere in there. And I love that book, and maybe I'll look at that at some time. But the other one, I'm blanking on the name. It's like, I think it's called just the Picture Bible, and I think the artist is like Maurice LeBlanc. I was going to try and write it down, but I apparently didn't write it down. So, but it's just called the Picture Bible, and it's under $20, and it's like an 800-page book. I think it came out in the late 70s, and it's really a beautiful book that's really well illustrated by one artist across all 800 pages. So it's really a lifetime work. And yeah, so anyways, back to Wolverton. If you just want more Bible comics, though. Also be sure to check out my comic examination of Archie's Sunshine comic, which is interesting. I'll link down in the comments or something. So yeah, so there's an intro by Monty Wolverton in this book by his son, Basil Wolverton's son, who also was a cartoonist, but I don't know his work as well. And I guess he explains how Basil Wolverton met this. Oh, here it is. the Worldwide Church of God. I thought it had the word radio in it. Anyways, though, they've changed their name since then because, what's radio? But anyways, nice little intro giving historical context. I kind of learned a few things. I didn't realize Basil Wolverton was pretty conservative. And I mean, considering how much he influenced like alternative comics and that Mad Magazine was like really, to me, it's like one of those things like On the Road or, the Beats, like all these precursors to the 60s. And so Mad Magazine, I don't know, it's just surprising to me, some things. But anyways, oh yeah, so let's start looking at the art. So this book is just packed with art. It's like, there's got to be over 1,000 illustrations in it. And one thing to note is that it's not like the Bible with like stories and then illustrations on it. It's basically just illustrations, and any text is just like supplementary to plant your feet and let you know where you're at in the Bible. But otherwise, I think maybe when these were first published in magazines, they were, with more text around them, like articles and things like that. So, but yeah, you're just given basically like a one line from Genesis to let you know, oh, this is the creation. This is Adam getting created, and Adam and Eve in the garden, and so on. So, yeah, very beautiful art. And I think they point out that his style kind of changes as he progresses because initially he's doing this really detailed art that would have taken a lot longer. So he kind of loosens up as he goes along, but it's still really great. And yeah, so I'm not going to go through every single page, but it is all in black and white, and it is, really beautiful stuff. I think I've seen a lot of Bible illustrations. I think Gustave Doré did some too. And but I think these are some of the best. Like I said, I think Wolverton has to be in my top 5 cartoonists, along with other people I've mentioned regularly on my channel, like Robert Crumb, Jack Kirby, George Harriman, Ernie Bushmiller, and so on. So yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of highlight a few images as we go along. Oh, one thing also to note is that this Bible is interesting because it's a Jesus-free Bible in a sense, and because it's basically Old Testament, the Book of Revelation in the back, but then there's like a gap in the middle where basically the New Testament is not really illustrated. And I think in a lot of ways, it's easier to illustrate the Old Testament, a lot of the Old Testament, than the New Testament, because the New Testament tends to be more like ideas and just people talking and Jesus talking. So it's like not as easy to illustrate. It's like the book of Proverbs. You're not going to illustrate that very well. This is kind of interesting. This is a rainbow in black and white. This is how you do a rainbow in black and white. Yeah, so, oh wow, look at this. I mean, just look at the line work and how long this must have taken him. I can't even imagine. Look at this beard. It's out of control. I'm in awe of like people that can draw with this much patience and detail. It's absolutely incredible. So I think there's so many pages in here that would work wonderfully as posters on your wall that you could check out. I'm going to jump ahead a little and see if there's any specific images that jump out to me. I mean, really, page after page, there's just so much detail and fine line work. I was looking after reading this if there were any interviews, like video of Basil Wolverton, but I could not locate any. I would love to see that, but as far as I know, there are no video interviews or anything like that. I forget when he died. I feel like it was late 70s or early 80s, sometime in there. But the way that he just uses the ink is just so incredible. This is like the style that I really admire, this thick line edge. It just makes like anything look incredible. If you use a really thick edge and use a lot of hatching and cross hatching, which Wolverton does, then it adds like so much to a work. All right, I'm going to jump ahead a little more. So this book is about 300 pages. And oh wow, look at this. This is like I think if you didn't know what this was, you'd be like, what is this? But it's actually the parting of when the Israelis, or what were they called back then? Hebrews, I guess, or just the chosen people were crossing with Moses the Red Sea, parting of the Red Sea. Is it the Red Sea or the Dead Sea? No, the Red Sea, right? um, Made famous by Charlton Heston in the Ten Commandments. Sometimes the style really fluctuates in this book between not in terms of quality. I feel like the quality is pretty high throughout, but in terms of the cartooniness, I think when he tends to use really close-ups, there tends to be a more realistic style used. I love how he draws animals too, especially lions. Lions look so strange, and if I can find a lion, I'll show it to you. But he has an interesting way of drawing a lion. This art really presages what we're going to see in the book of Revelation, because it's almost a switch to this apocalyptic style that is pretty incredible. Like this. This is what I mean. Like when he does close-ups, there's like almost a different sense of realism about it. I mean, it still looks cartoony, but it also just has like I don't know. I can't. If you don't like Wolverton, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you either love his work or you don't. And I think he had a huge influence on alternative comics from the in the 60s and 70s. I mean, especially I've heard Robert Crumb described as Basil Wolverton plus Karl Barks, and I can kind of see that in a lot of ways. And some of the images in here look like they look just almost like identical in style to what we see in the Book of Genesis, that Crumb book. But there's also in Crumb kind of a looser style that you never get, maybe you get sometimes, but rarely as much in Wolverton. Wolverton tends to use a more disciplined hand, I would say. And I'm not saying that's bad or good. I'm just saying it has a looser feel in Crumb. This looks like Will Eisner, like some of his Spirit pages where the architecture really folds into the font. All right, I'm going to jump ahead a little more here, see if anything else jumps out. But really, this just goes on and on. And like I said, though, like some books of the Bible are much more easy to illustrate than others. Like I said, Proverbs and Psalms, probably not. I think in that picture Bible, which it tries to adapt the entire Bible, but it kind of just breezes over those parts because they're not really illustratable as much. Let's be honest. Unless you just have 100 pages of people just reciting Psalms. Oh, here's a Wolverton lion, as I mentioned, which the hair really looks like yarn in some sense, and the nose and expression it's like trying to find what's the right tone and expression for this. Or this one. This looks like a William Blake. I feel like William Blake did lions like this. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I love it. It's just such an unusual lion. I guess they mentioned something about some of these images being too coarse or too brutal. Some of them were edited out of the magazine or censored to some degree or not used. I also like the way he draws these alternative Old Testament gods. These guys, the fish god, and I don't know. Well, so this looks a little looser here. This line work. Okay, so yeah, this goes on. I'm going to jump ahead. This is the slaying of Goliath by David. And it's kind of funny that they don't show him with the slingshot. Oh, that is the slingshot. I think he has a big umbrella almost. But it's an interesting way of showing the motion as this giant wheel thing, and then in Goliath's head we see a tiny little pebble. So it's fascinating that we don't see any motion lines. He avoids that, but he does show the pebble as it hits. I think some of the images in the end are in the book of Revelation are some of the largest, and they decided to turn the book sideways to include them. I don't know how big the actual print book. There's another Wolverton lion. I don't know how big the print book is of this. I just have this digital copy. Another wonderful Old Testament God. So they're about to hack it down. It'd be fascinating to also see, like, if he had transitioned to digital art. I know it didn't exist back then when Wolverton was doing in his heyday, but I know a lot of artists nowadays. Some of them still work on pen and pencil. Some of them transition to ink to digital inking or digital illustration, and some of them usually it takes about a few weeks at least, or maybe a month. But then once they get cross over, they never really go back because there's just so much things you can do, and so much. It's so much easier to do a lot of things that would take an enormous amount of time when you had to do it by hand with pen and ink. I noticed with Wolverton's women, they tend to either be kind of shrewish, or they tend to be like good girls, pretty good girls that are. But in some ways, I admire the way he draws the kind of more evil women better. All right, so I'm gonna jump ahead. I want to make sure you guys see these Book of Revelation images, because those are the ones that are just like. I mean, there's great images throughout. This looks. I love this, whatever this Old Testament God is or whatever. It just looks so. Who's worshiping this? I don't remember this skeleton one. Must have missed it. Oh, and this image too. This is incredible. I love this one. This is the kind of the art that what was that guy's name? Like Big Daddy Roth or whatever, the guy that did like the race car type things, like creatures. You know what I'm talking about? This reminds me of that. So like I said, I think it's just a lot of like alternative art scene stuff. Really got its start with Wolverton. If you were like a kid in the '40s reading an issue of Powerhouse Pepper or Mad Magazine in the '50s, seeing his art, and it's like, what is this? It's like just so different from anything else out there. Oh, you know what? I want to before we go back to this, I want to show you this quote from the introduction that I just loved. It was in the introduction. They're talking about. If I can find it. Oh, here it is. Okay. I think this is it. So, Wolverton told Dick Vole in an interview published in an all Wolverton issue of Graphic Story magazine. Oh, I gotta find that had advantages for the artist. What had advantages? Publishers like to have artists under their thumbs. Oh yeah, okay. So Wolverton was not living in New York. I forget where he was living in like outside of New York, but not in New York. And so he would mail his art in. And this is what he's talking about. He says, that had advantages for the artists, but I would rather have foregone those things and have more freedom otherwise. Like many other artists, Wolverton had no formal training, but unlike most other artists, he never tried to ape the styles of other cartoonists, even the ones he admired. Possibly it was a case of trying to keep my work from looking like that of others, Wolverton has said. Gradually I became aware that my way of drawing was different. So it's like this kind of acceptance that his art was different, but that's like what made it great. And rather than trying to kind of funnel himself towards other artists. He kind of like became more himself and better, a better version of him, if you want to use like modern self-help terminology or something. So I just like that quote to understand, like, rather than try and make yourself like the world, as the world is now, make the world like you, or something. So these are the images, sudden shift in style from people in the Middle East wearing these old style of clothes to 1950s nuclear society, hell, we're all dying, and the book of Revelation is at hand. So we get like 2 pages of people listening to the World of Tomorrow broadcast from the whatever that church is that he was involved with. And and then we dive into all these wonderful spreads and post-apocalypse. Like I looked at, like I said, the Road, Cormac McCarthy's graphic novel. Honestly, I think he would have done a better job than that other artist for that book. Not that he's bad, but I just love this style of art more. And in some ways, I think in terms of Wolverton's serious art, this is where he's really allowed to shine. And it would have been incredible if he had done some kind of zombie apocalypse book in the 70s or something. It's interesting how he draws these planes. I don't know if this is meant to look like a futuristic plane. It looks like it's almost upside down or something. Or maybe I don't know of airplanes that look like this. I feel like airplanes may not be as strong as suit. I mean, these are cool looking planes. They look kind of like wooden planes that you buy and snap together, but interesting look. Skyscrapers being brushed aside by tidal waves. And let's look at all this. These funneled water spouts or whatever they are. Hail, leprosy, plagues. This image is cool because I guess it's meant to be like we're right next to this guy's head and these other people are in the background. It just looks... I looked at another... I don't even remember what I was looking at. Trying to remember which book it was that had that. They had like perspective, and it kind of creates like a dissolve effect similar to film. I love these like bubbles. This looks like almost boiling psychedelic architecture. Corpses falling into pits. There just seems like a certain level of glee that Wolverton has when he does stuff like this. He just does it so well. Yeah, I want this as a poster. I think this one was called Mutants. Yeah, Mutants, Aftermath of a Nuclear Holocaust. Very different from the X-Men. Before the X-Men. Actually, this may be after the X-Men, I guess. Whatever year this came out, late 60s or 70s. And then after everything has passed, the lion and the little children can play together once more. Another Wolverton lion. All right, and then in the back, we get this is the art that I associate with Basil Wolverton, and I guess these were like incidental illustrations for the church magazine, but not really Bible illustrations. Just happened to be used for the church magazine. I think it just really provides a good contrast to show that he was able to do all these things at once, and like he wasn't constrained by any tone. He could take it wherever he wanted. But I just love these. These are so funny to me. I think that's like something that you don't get from this book for the most part is how wonderful he was as a writer, both the way that his storylines weaved and the way that his characters behaved and the way that they were dialogued. He used a lot of alliteration and just very funny stuff. So I think Powerhouse Pepper, that there was a volume that came out of 100 pages of that, the Fantagraphics put out. That was probably the best collection I've seen of Wolverton stuff. I think it is in black and white, which is different from how it was originally published in the original comics, but I think it still looks really wonderful. This is kind of funny, this image. I don't know what year this came out, but probably mid to late 60s, maybe after. But because Wolverton was pretty conservative, and I think you get this too in Ernie Bushmiller with Nancy, that it's funny to see how they react to the counterculture stuff as opposed to like somebody like Robert Crumb who was part of it. So to me, it's just kind of funny. These look very Mad Magazine. This may be from Mad Magazine. No, this is from here, from the Church Magazine, but it looks like it could be Mad. And these are just wonderful. These are what he's known for, his portraits. Some of these book titles are pretty funny. Like, which one? Oh, how to beat your wife. How to know it all. Subletting your subconscious. Being superior. How the universe just happened. Raising children. What to do when you die. Visiting your wife in jail. How to act when you know it all. Simple evolution. Ancient caveman hymns. Anyways, I think that's pretty much the end of the book. Yeah. And yeah, quite a read. Really beautiful book. Like I said, not the like what I love most about Wolverton, because I think the full package is his writing, his dialogue, his stories, and his art. But this is his art. If you want just his like beautiful samples of his art and get a lot of ideas, maybe if you're an artist, I think this is a great book. I don't know if it's still in print actually, but if it is, get one and check it out, because I think it is a very beautiful book.